You're listening to BBC Radio News at 8 minutes past 5.
Oh, sir, thank you very much. Now, the royal family are said to be hurt at the Duke and Duchess of Sussex announcement that they're stepping back as senior royals. It's understood Prince Harry and Meghan did not consult any of the royal family before making this statement. Well, we're now joined by the former royal butler and royal etiquette expert Grant Harold and Caroline Aston, who's a royal writer and historian. And to you, Grant, first of all, you were the butler to Princes Charles, William and Harry for 7 years or so. How do you think they're dealing with this just now?
Well, I think, like everybody else, I was a bit kind of shocked with the statements that came out yesterday, and people have said to me, what do you think is going on behind closed doors? What will be happening? And probably, I'm guessing, similar to us, there's probably a bit of confusion going on as well, because I think going by the reports today that obviously the Queen didn't know, I'm assuming that it hadn't been discussed, and so it's kind of the unknown, isn't it? Really.
And what kind of a relationship did the three men have? Of course, it's a father and his two sons. Many people might think it's a close relationship, but they are, of course, an unusual family. So how close is it?
They're very close. I mean, that's the one thing I remember when working for the family is people have always kind of said to me, are they all family? Are they close? Because obviously people don't really see that side of it. And yes, they are. I mean, the Prince Charles and his sons are as close as you can be with obviously with your parent. So there's no question in that at all. And I think, again, that's what probably confused me with all the information yesterday, the statements, and I was like everyone else thinking, well, this just doesn't seem right. But obviously, it is correct, and it slightly confused me.
Now, Caroline Aston, were you expecting this to happen? Do you think we had them back from the couple back from their 6-week break? They were visiting the High Commission of Canada in London just earlier in the week. Did you think something was about to happen?
I thought that this is going to happen, yes, for some time. And, of course, the word on the block is that in the course of their visit to Canada House, ostensibly to thank the Canadians for the warmth of their welcome over the Christmas period, they may even have been looking into arranging visas to travel there later. I think there's been a gradual decline in the relationship between Prince Harry, Meghan and the general public virtually since the wedding. And Piers Morgan, a man of short, sharp, pithy statements, said that Meghan split from her husband, split from her father, split from her family, split William and Harry, and now is splitting from the royal family. That's a typical Piers Morgan statement, and he ended it by saying, I rest my case.
But there has been controversy, hasn't there, Caroline? I think many people feel the tabloids haven't been treating Meghan particularly fairly in this whole affair.
Well, let's just stop there for a minute and draw a very distinct line between genuine press reporting and analysis and what goes on social media, where certainly she has been cruelly abused and treated to racist abuse. The publication, I think there was that awful monkey picture episode where the man concerned quite rightly was fired for racism. But the press looking at them, analysing what they're doing, what they're contributing to royal life and duty, that's a totally different thing. And if you join the royal family, your every action is going to be analysed, is going to be picked about, and sometimes, yes, some of the feedback may not be what you wish it to be.
Now, Grant, we're talking about the relationship between the father and the two sons. What about the relationship with the matriarch, as they call themselves, the firm, the head of the firm, the Queen herself? Do you think Harry will be speaking to her, apologising to her, do you think?
Well, this is what everyone's obviously going to be wondering. And I mean, there's no question that they have a good relationship. And a good example was with the Invictus Games when he quite oddly enough got the Queen to kind of do that. Was it a mic drop or whatever you kind of call it? And it showed that they've got that wonderful kind of relationship as he has with his grandfather as well. So again, that's why it kind of baffled me when it said obviously that it hadn't been discussed, and as Caroline said, it's obviously been. It's not something that's just happened. It's obviously been getting planned. It's obviously been in the background. So for me, it's the confusion of not knowing why it's not being discussed, because the way the royal household works and being part of it and understanding it is everything's planned. When the statements are released or information is given, that normally it's all discussed and all the departments, all the households make sure that they're all saying and doing the right thing. So that's why this is, I think, caused such a shock, even though possibly we can see it was coming, but it's still a shock that it actually did happen. And it's kind of the fallout that's kind of followed it as well.
And Grant, how does the Queen deal with people? Can you be sent for that she can command you to appear before her, even though you're her grandson?
I love that word command. Do you know, it's actually, you're quite right. When the Queen summons you, or for example, if you get invited to something, it normally says the Queen commands, which is a very old royal etiquette protocol tradition. I love that when command. Who knows? Could she summon? Of course, she could summon her grandson without question. I don't know if we'll use the word command, but I'm sure that she'll. But the thing about her, and again, lucky enough to have known it, she's a wonderful human being. I mean, she's got a lovely, compassionate side to it, and I'm sure she probably wants to also if obviously she didn't know, she probably want to understand exactly what's happened. And I think for her, communication is really important, well, for the family in general. So I think they'll want to know how this happened, and hopefully to avoid it happening again in future. But I think at the end of the day, the other thing is Prince Harry is obviously quite rightly, protected of his wife, and obviously trying to do this right by his child. And I think that's what any husband or wife or anybody would do for your family, is you're going to protect your immediate family.
Now, Caroline, we all have to make a living one way or another, but how do these two make a living now? They are independently wealthy, of course, in their own respect, but there could be a big conflict of interest, and many people back here in the UK might be a bit angry if they're kind of seeming to be making a buck out of being a member of the royal family in North America.
Absolutely, but let's just go back to what we were saying a moment ago. The only thing that's come as a surprise to Her Majesty and the royal household will have been this sudden statement. We do know that talks had already been going on about how the talents of both Harry and Meghan could be best harnessed, how things could be modified to suit their desire for a more progressive approach to royal work. That was under discussion. What they've done is to jump the gun. And the statement they've issued, to me, poses more questions than it answers. If you're going to be financially independent, you have to make money. What's the easiest way to do that? That's to go into lucrative deals, public speaking, public appearances. They do stand in danger here of perhaps blotting their semi-royal copybook, as the Wessexes did before them when Sophie Wessex, for example, tried to carry on her PR business, got involved in one or two scandals. We had Sarah Ferguson in scams using her royal status to raise money. So however they make money, they've got to be very careful that they don't tarnish the royal reputation. That's very important. And the royal family does progress. They just do it slowly. And the idea that you can get married and within 2 years totally revolutionise a system that's taken centuries to build up just is not a realistic expectation. It's almost as though they don't get it. And who's going to pay for their security? They're going to keep Frogmore on, which £2.4 million of public money went into, and yet only live in this country for 6 months a year. As the palace says, this is complex. And really, the ground plan should have been well laid out before this was made quite so public. That's the problem. The royals knew there was difficulty ahead. They just didn't realise it would be thrust so quickly via Instagram on the public stage.
Well, Caroline, Aston, Grant, Harold, thank you very much both. It's been very interesting to speak to you.